Hello, I've got no idea what I'm doing in this video, to be quite honest. Um, as you can see, we're on a screen that looks kind of confusing. I kind of wanted to talk about the um, the Hoover Dam potential collapse, along with the Super Bowl, some of the references to do with the Super Bowl, some of the references to do with Madonna coming up right now with um, the 8th of February as a potential croquet date, um, and yeah, and how the whole lot all ties together basically. Because I've just got tons and tons of references at the minute. If I click off of this a second, I'll show you. Look, see all these tabs here. See all these tabs. I had about twice as many tabs of this as this, and to be quite honest, I could probably have 3 times as many. Um, it was getting to the point where I couldn't even click on the bloody tab, because there were so many up here. So anyway, where to begin with this? I'm at this thing here. I've called this the Fibonacci cycle. And what I've got going on is, if you remember, a few weeks back, Lambda 115 did a video where he had placed what this is the Fibonacci, the reduced Fibonacci sequence, that repeating pattern of the reduced Fibonacci sequence in, just in a cycle. His was a little bit better looking than this, but what I've actually done is I've actually quartered this thing out now, so we can kind of look, at some of the other kind of balance points with this thing. Okay, so what this is, for people that don't know what this is this is the Fibonacci sequence, and once you get to a double digit or a triple digit, it's been reduced back down to a single digit. And what happens is, every 24 numbers that you get, so you reduce your first 24 numbers of the Fibonacci sequence, and then that set of numbers repeats over and over and over again, forever. Forever and ever. And so what is interesting is what Lambda pointed out was where the thing resets, where it starts over again, is, obviously I've got this arrow up here, is basically right here, is actually right here. Okay, this is where it starts. Okay, so this is why I've got this 0 here, because 9, when we're starting normally, there's nothing on this side. 9 is 0, a bit like 9/11 went to ground 0. Could that be another reference to this, the start of this cycle? And so, what we start on is 0, and it goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, yada yada yada. So this is the start where X is, and so when we get back round to here, it starts over again. Okay. Now, what is interesting about this is the numbers. Oops, probably didn't mean to get rid of that. Is the numbers that surround this starting up again. Okay, so the first thing to note is this number right here, the 112. And I'm like, lo and behold, that fits in with a number that I've been looking at for, an event to happen at the Hoover Dam, which would reference starting over afresh, being reborn. Okay, the Hoover Dam collapse, that's what that ritual would reference, is the idea of being reborn, coming out of the matrix. Okay, so we've got that set of numbers. That number is right at the start there. Okay, the 11th of February, you can get there. Okay, obviously we have 9/11 at the start of the cycle, and again 9/11 I believe is referencing going into the matrix, the start of the cycle. Okay, and then what do we have right before that lot that ties into it as well is this 819, or if we just rotate those numbers around, 819 becomes 816. 819 as well is very important because we had that with, well, we just had it with, but we had a big reference with Matthew Perry, okay? And Madonna's stuff, Madonna's numbers are the same. And so some of the stuff, of course, that I'm looking at repeats with Matthew Perry, you know. Let's look at his death date, you know, and I'm, you know, this is, again, I've just been looking at 2/8 for Madonna, and then of course you know, you realize, oh yeah, this applies to Matthew Perry because Matthew Perry was this number here, the 28th of October. Okay, so this 218 here is the 28th of October. Oh, blimey no, you know, I'm like, that's pretty mental as well. But of course, I'm looking at just 2/8 for Madonna, the 8th of February. Could it happen? It, you know, anything can happen, couldn't it? You know, probably won't, but again, you see how these numbers tie in, you know. I don't know what else to say. Let's have a quick look around. So there's 24 numbers here, so there's 6 numbers in each quarter. Let's look on each side of each quarter. So the 19, of course, super duper important because this is also I would say, if you can mirror this to get the word pi, this is in the dollar bill, okay. Yeah, okay, what does that mean, Dan? But this is important because this is what we're looking at, is this huge pi here, okay. And there's a lot more to this than just what I'm saying, you know. I mean, there's an awful lot more little bits and bobs of references that I'm kind of missing out on this one, just to try and keep this relatively short. Anyway, let's look on this one quarter here. We've got the 8/4. We're going to actually come back to this 19 or 16 at the top of here, and we're going to come back to this 8/4 in a little bit as well. But 8/4, with the current references with the eclipse date this year coming up, pretty interesting. But you've got to remember also the number 84 or 148 is heavily encoded with Pluto as well, and the whole Pluto return thing, and actually numbers surrounding the actual eclipse as well of with the sun and the moon, all of those numbers tied together. It's quite interesting when you really delve into it. But what I'm seeing is these two events tying together with, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't want it to get too waffly. Okay, there we go. Anyway, there's that. We're going to look at another number. Actually, before I go on, actually, no, that's a different person I'm thinking of. Hang on. Let's do this one because this one does tie in. Actually, all this ties in with birthdays. Here's the Queen's death date, and also, who did I want to mention here? Oh, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, and didn't she die in the bathtub? Of course, any reference to the bathtub. Remember, Lake Mead is the bathtub. It's got the bathtub ring on it. Again, this 2/11 is the death of Whitney Houston, and this is the death of the Queen here, and this is also Whitney Houston's birthday, the 9th of August, okay, and so we have the Queen on the 8th of September. So you're seeing some stuff, the amount of connections with the what would you call it, matriarchal type feminine symbolism, you know, the Queen, you know, when, you know, all these female references, again, you know, it's the same with the numbers for Madonna. We've just got a 1 in the middle of it here with the 6-8 or 9-8 or 8-9. So again, you're going to see a lot of this stuff is like, it's just the same numbers just repeated over and over again. Something that I started doing with this was when I got this chart sort of done, I sort of said to myself, well, let's go across from the center and do like balancing numbers, and see, what those numbers come out as. In fact, let's start where I started, which was the beginning here, 1, and just drag it through the middle to its opposite counterpart, and then, and just so forth and so on all the way around this table. I thought, it'd be interesting to have these numbers written down to see what they were, because they're, obviously balancing numbers across this whole cycle would be interesting. And so this is what I've got written down here. All these numbers here are, the numbers as you go around this thing, right? So what becomes interesting is you start looking at these and you say, oh, that's, these are all 9 times table numbers, 18, 27, 36, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, all these numbers will, of course, reduce to 9 as well. It's the interesting thing about 9 times table. So 9 has some interesting characteristics. So all these reduce to 9, okay? So you can do one reduction and they all go to 9, all the way down to, what's interesting is 11 of these have a single reduction. So there's 11 encoded here with a single reduction. And then the end one, the 12th one, has a double reduction, two reductions to get back to 9, okay? Which is kind of interesting with the whole, this kind of idea with 11 and 2, 11 with a single, and then that needs a double, 11 and 2. So it was kind of interesting that did that. So I went and looked that up actually, and it is a thing. Somebody's found that before, and it's a at least I managed to find it on Google, so you should be able to find it. I don't know if it's in the Wikipedia. I found it on a different thing, on a different web page. So, but that's really interesting that the 9 is encoded in here, because again, with Fibonacci, you think of the Fibonacci, you think of the golden spiral, and the number 9, of course. It's pretty interesting that the number 9 is encoded in here. And the other interesting thing about the number 9 is if you do the 9 times table, I've got this over here. This is what this is. Now, I know this is pointing out the obvious, but some people may not know that. I mean, there may be people out there that don't know this, but I know it's pretty obvious and pretty basic. But you do 9 times table, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 9 here. So 1 times 9 is 9. 2 times 9 is 18, 218. 3 times 9 is 27, and so forth and so on. Yeah? And then what you have is you have a point where you get up to the number 5, right? Through to the number 6. So 5 times 9 and 6 times 9, there's a flip. And what you have is your numbers change places. You see this? So 45, 54, 63, so 36, 6. You see these flipped numbers? Okay? So this is something special with the 9 times table. I don't know what other bits and bobs. There are some other interesting things with other numbers, but the 9 does this. Pretty cool. And of course that will go around to there. You could put a 0 in here, and that would be, goodness, you could put a 0 in there and you can see how that flips. Okay. And of course you can put a 0 here. 0, 1, 1, 0. So you can see this again. What I keep talking about is this 5, 6 is our flip over point. our mirror point. Okay, and 9 shows that pretty well. Okay, and again, everything reduces to 9. So all these numbers reduce back down to 9 as well. So it's pretty cool that all this, stuff is revolving around the number 9. What else do I want to say about this? Not an awful lot right now, but we might come back to this, we might not. I don't know if it's worth coming back to it, but I just want you to, just remember, like, the 8-4. Remember, like, this 1-5. Remember, it's 105 days from 9/11 through to Christmas. Hope I'm getting that right. And we're going to look at another. I've got a 150-day jump for Madonna. So let's just do a couple of number jumps. And then I'm going to talk through some other stuff, because there's an absolute ton of stuff here. I know this is going to be a real disjointed video, but I'm going to try and illustrate that this the start over again, this is an important number when it all ties back to Fibonacci, the golden ratio, and all this stuff, and sequences starting over again and balancing sequences. This 112 is crazy important, actually, and it's just absolutely amazing the way all this stuff ties together. Where shall I go with this now? Should we go and do some? I don't know what to do, actually. Let's go and look at one more charty thing here. Let me show you the 9/11 sequence. Okay, don't save. Okay, so this is just, again, we're using a Fibonacci type sequence, right? Which is what I've got going here. So we're starting on the number 9 and the number 11. We're going to use these two numbers to start our sequence. We'll add them together, and then our sequence will continue on. So 9 plus 11 is 20. 20 plus 11 is 31, so forth and so on. Okay. And then what I've got down here is I've got the exact opposite. So we're just starting on 11 and adding 9 in, and what that does is it just creates a slightly different sequence, but we're starting with the same two numbers, just flipped. Okay, so we get 20 again, but then our next number on is changing. Yeah, so 20 plus 9 is 29. 29 plus 20 is 49. So you see we've got two separate number lines for starting with basically the same numbers, right? Now what's interesting about 9/11 is that, this first number here, check this out. When we get to number 10, yeah, which is the opposite end, like we were doing with the 9 times table here, in that last thing, okay, we have a repeat again of 9/11. So this was really, because there are other sequences that do have a repeat occasionally. One of them happens to be a Madonna, I think it's a 618 sequence. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there is another. There are occasional repeats, but this is kind of special, especially as it repeats on the number 10 as well, and it's all balanced sort of thing. So what I wanted to point out in this, again, with Madonna and with our next number that we're looking at, because I've not made this clear yet, but the number 213 is extremely, if you go back and watch all my previous stuff, the number 213 is one of those dates that I often talk about for potential for the Hoover Dam, something to happen. Okay, so if we read this number backwards here, okay, this is our 213, and if you come down here and look at this, what we've got here is this number here. Actually, this year Madonna's birthday is on 2/29, okay, on the 229th day of the year, and this is a leap year this year, so 2/29 becomes more important of a reference with the February the 29th, the extra day, the one day that balances everything. Yeah. Anyway, 213 is in the dollar bill. That's our number jump from 9/11. 155 days through takes us to 213. Yeah. So of course, you know, this whole bunch of stuff here is very, very important. And again, if we take an average between these two rows, what balances it is the actual Fibonacci sequence, just with an extra 0 on each number. Okay, so instead of being just 1, 1, 2, 3, yeah, there's just an extra 0 in there. So it's pretty cool that Fibonacci is now the balancing sequence for, you know, these two 9/11 sequences. The other thing I wanted to point out, what's important about this sequence right now with this year again, is that Easter is on the 31st, pretty sure it's the 31st of March. Wowzers. You know what else is wowzers? That the 13th is Shrove Tuesday. Okay, this is Fat Tuesday right here. So this is the start of Lent. So we've got Lent coming up here through to Easter. So this is pretty mental, you know, just in its own right. And I know that I just caught a We Seek, We Find video, and he was already mentioning that Pentecost this year is on 5/19. Okay, I'm going to talk about 5/19 in here in a little bit. Actually, it's a slightly, I mean, it all ties together, but I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But again, it's funny the synchronicities right now. Seeing that the other day, I mean, I wonder I watched that a day ago or 2 days ago. I can't remember now, but I've been wanting to do this video for like quite a while now, since the 131 Madonna video. I've kind of been like, well, I'd move on to this video. I just haven't got around to doing it. I've been so busy. But anyway, Pentecost, 5/19 this year. So that's the return of the Holy Spirit. That's pretty interesting, and we'll talk about 5/19 and why that reference is so interesting with 2/11 here in just a second. What did I, you know, also 5/19, if you cross-reference in here, okay, 5/19, there's, you know, you could do two cross-references, kind of. Remember, double digits you can take back down to a single digit. Is how I like to do that kind of, what would you call it? It's kind of a reduction. If it's just a duplicate number, you know, a duplicate digit, just get rid of that extra duplicate digit. So 19 is not difficult to get to. Some people call that fudging it, but whatever. But I'm going to show you a 5/19 reference back to, well, we'll get onto it in a minute, but it ties back to Madonna basically, and it ties back to 2/11. And check out our cross reference here with the 82, with the 2/8. Again, this thing is also, you know, with the death and resurrection of Christ, the death and resurrection of Madonna, maybe. Interesting. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna, if something does happen on the 8th, I am gonna go buy a couple extra tins of baked beans, and I might fill the car up with go down and get some fuel. You know what I mean? But anyway, also notice this 87. This is quite interesting with the whole Super Bowl thing happening on the 211, because of, again, this connection. There's a connection with Taylor Swift to this whole thing. There's a reason why she's at the Super Bowl, and then we've got her, you know, connection with Travis Kelce with the 87. And again, Madonna's numbers right here. Again, obviously we're on 27 today. So obviously, I mean, it actually would be a pretty good reference for her to die in the middle of the night tonight, sometime in the middle of the night, and reference both 27 and 28 would be a really good would be a really good reference, you know, because this 127 also references another character as well. So, you know, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly, but there are a lot of 82 references, so I don't know. What else do I want to say? You know, and you can pick out tons of interesting numbers like the 49. Again, this was the last year. That's another thing that ties to the dollar bill. That date of the 4th of September just happened to be Labor Day this last year. That is an actual number jump in the dollar bill to that day, and that was also Easter last year. So again, with the resurrection thing going on, and obviously the bullseye, and obviously the 105 days from 9/11 to Christmas, and obviously Christmas sitting over here, the numbers for Christmas, you know, right here through all these numbers in the number 7, which is to do with balance as well. So you know, it's kind of, you know, this whole thing here is really interesting. That's all I got to say about the thing. And again, the 8/9 here with the Queen and her death, and obviously her shared birthday on the twin day of this thing. The 111th day of the year, 111 days left in the year. So I'm going to leave it here for this one. Enough waffle on this. Probably missed a couple of things in here out, but remember also we'll probably come on to the 233 and also the corresponding number of 322. So we'll probably come on to that later on here in the video. And you know, note that thing, you know, it pops up again and again, you know. Let's get off of here. Let's go back to the regular. Let's go back to the this one, and then we can talk about some other numbers here in a minute. Because I'm gonna. Where do I start with this? I don't know. Where do I even go with this? I'm gonna tie in now. Okay, with. Let's look at the 28 in here first, the cross-reference with the 28, and then I'll tie into something I think is pretty important. So the first thing to note is this again is the start of the cycle, okay, and the 9/11, okay, which is the 254th day of the year, right? 9/11 with the Queen's shared death date and birthday, and you know they're all sitting in this 11 column, and also with Whitney Houston now with this number as well, and this date, okay, for the start of Fibonacci. What's interesting is what we're looking at a number, and obviously 0 can be 9 as well when we're coming back through on the cycle, but what we're looking at a number that will actually balance these two. And so we want to go in between, And if we average out 0 and 2, it's 1. If we average out 1 and 1, it's 1. If we average out 1 and 3, it's 2. If we average out 2 and 4, it's 3. Okay, and the pattern is the number, the set of numbers that actually balance out Fibonacci, the Fibonacci sequence and the Lucas sequence is Fibonacci again. Okay, just as we had Fibonacci balancing out that 9/11 sequence. So again, what's interesting is you could, kind of say that Fibonacci, as it repeats in a pattern, is, starting on 9/11 as well. So it's just interesting how everything ties back. But, again, that date is, again, the number that balances between the start of Fibonacci, which could be referenced as a 9/11, and Lucas numbers. Okay. Again, if you've not seen some, this is a lot of this stuff. You kind of got to go back and watch some of my previous videos to get a lot of this information. This is, something that I've been looking at for quite some time, due to some interesting number jumps with, and actually I'll go through those number jumps right now. Some interesting number jumps with the Hoover Dam, and obviously with the Super Bowl being in Vegas, and there's a couple of films that spring to mind where they plant explosives underneath something to create an earthquake that ends up sinking. Well, they don't actually plant explosives in Superman's the one I'm thinking of, but Lex Luthor's gonna sink a whole area to with an earthquake, basically, to I don't know, glean some, to make money, right? He's going to make some money on real estate that he's going to be able to sell in the future. He's buying up worthless desert, and he's going to create a new coastline or something like that in Superman. But the point is, he's going to use explosives to create that earthquake. And the same in A View to a Kill in James Bond. Zoran is going to plant a bunch of explosives under a lake and flood out and create an earthquake, right? And he's going to, I think the plan is to either sink Silicon Valley or flood Silicon Valley so he can take over the microchip market. Anyway, and there's a ton of references in those two films to all this stuff, of course, with the Hoover Dam falling down in the one, and then a lake draining in A View to a Kill, and there's a ton of other bits and bobs in those films. But the point is, the kind of thing that I'm kind of expecting is some kind of explosive thing going off. We may or may not know about it. It may be blamed on just an earthquake. Hoover Dam getting an awfully big crack in it. Draining Lake Mead, basically. And then Vegas going blackout, being without power. And then you have the exodus out of Egypt, out of Vegas, out of Sin City, and back into the wilderness. Okay, this is the rebirth of man, coming out of the control system, out of the Matrix. So that whole thing taking place there, and it's referenced with a ton of like George Lucas films and Steven Spielberg, and all these characters all have their films that are referencing these ideas. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Where are the Raiders now? Okay, the Oakland Raiders are now in Vegas. They're Vegas Raiders, and they're the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Why? Because the dam, the Hoover Dam, is the lost ark. Yeah, it's the ark that has become corrupted. It's the lost ark. Okay, we need to find that ark again, and kind of reconnect those two sides of reality back balanced. Yeah, we need to balance back both sides of reality. If you notice, the two winged angels, instead of being like on the Ark of the Covenant, they come across and they're kind of or at least pointing or touching wings. At the Hoover Dam, them two things are sitting straight up. Like there is no balance right there. I don't know, that's one way of looking at it. But those winged angels are those things that sit on the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, and the Ark of the Covenant, that is the dam. The only problem is, right now, we're trapped inside a false temple, if you like. Okay. Anyway, as I waffle on, and this is what we've got here. This is the top of the temple here in the table as well. I'm completely losing track of where I'm going with this. But another thing we've got to remember is we've got the 1111, the two inlet towers on one side and two inlet towers on the other side of the dam, of the temple, and that's the 1111 that we need to get back to. Okay, and also, and all these numbers and everything I'm talking about right now are referenced in the dollar bill as well, with certain folds. And also the 1011 is important because the 1011 is a reference back to, I believe, what would be the fifth column, and it's in the table here, this fifth column, which actually, if I was to just do this, well, that's not very good at all, but the fifth column is the doorway, is the Vesica Pisces, is the 0. Okay, so there's 0 here. Well, that looks a real mess. That's the fifth element right there. So there is really 5 columns, but you don't see the middle column because it's the metaphysical. I've got a cough. It's the metaphysical, excuse me. That fifth column is the metaphysical. You don't see it, and obviously 2 is a reflection of 5. But yeah, you don't. It's just a doorway. So the fifth column is represented with a doorway right here. Okay, the fifth element, the metaphysical, and that's the thing in the middle that's balancing everything. And the 1111 on both sides, but also, we've got this is the 0, this is the 1, 101. That's some Hoover Dam gematria there, and also the 1011. So we also have this 1011 reference that's important in the dollar bill, and it's re-referenced over and over and over again. And I'm just going around in circles trying to explain this stuff, but it's there. It's the references are there. Anyway, where else do I want to go with this? I completely lost my train of thought here. I was talking about this 211 balancing stuff, and again, the important number right now, this number 14, okay, that's in the center here. This is Pluto. This is the Mickey Mouse clock house. Mickey Mouse clock house? Mickey Mouse clubhouse. Mickey Mouse clock tower. Yeah, this is the Mickey Mouse clubhouse with these numbers at the top of this thing, which is Mickey Mouse's birthday and the birthday of or what I would call Pluto Christmas, which is the 17th of November, which is the balance between the two cycles of Pluto. Just as we have Christmas as really is the balance between between the sun and the moon, between Mary and Jesus. So that's probably why we say Merry Christmas. Okay, because it's actually Mary and Jesus being balanced with the cross, with the Chris. Okay. Oh dear. Anyway, so the 17th and the 18th. This is these two characters, Pluto and Mickey Mouse. And I guess I'm going to just whiffle waffle on to the next sort of reference here. But the important thing to note as well is that what's straight up and down here, because you'll see a lot of 203 references, okay, with the dartboard. And what I have going on, let me undo that bit. Let me just explain this real quick for new people as well. Let's do a different color. Let me put a circle in here so I can kind of, this might make more sense, and hopefully you can still see these numbers pretty decent. Okay, anyway, that's good enough. What we've got going on is I'm looking at these numbers that are surrounding this number 14, okay? Where do I start here? It's like the dartboard, right? The 14's the bullseye, and this is the top of, the top number here. Well, I'm putting the four corners in, so we've got the top number here, the bottom number here, and each side. And I've put them up here, so you can see them in red up here. And what I've got is I've got the numbers for the actual dartboard as well, in blue. And so if you amalgamate those two, what you'll see at the top of the dartboard is, again, 211. Okay, that's the top of the cross. Yeah, and the top of the cross is the North Pole, is the place where we want to be, right? So to speak. I mean, everything has to be balanced, and I guess actually we really need to have the heart as well at that point. But anyway, but what I want to show you is on the dartboard as well, is that if you look at what the dartboard is in the blue, 203 is the straight up and down on the dartboard, right? So if we do straight up and down here as well, look what it is. It's 1120, or just again 11.2, straight up and down. So 203, the straight up and down, also references back to this. I mean, we're kind of flipping backwards and forwards here, but 211, when we amalgamate, is at the top, and 211 is also straight up and down on this one. And then 203 is at the bottom on here as well. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but anyway, that's what's going on there with the 211 being, kind of the, this reference straight up and down. On the normal dartboard as well, which again with this reference back to the, I mean, I'll just talk about it. We might get to the tab later and I'll show you, but with the Super Bowl, this time around, we've got the 49ers versus the Chiefs. Now, the reason why the Chiefs, I had kind of an inkling that the Chiefs were going to be in it. I couldn't really make my mind up who they were going to be playing, though. Now it's pretty obvious, but the reason why I like the Chiefs was because of this symbolism here, the arrowhead. Okay, and not only the arrowhead, but also Mahomes' number, the quarterback. We got 15 for his number, and his birthday as well, the 17th of September, right in here as well. So the whole thing with the Chiefs. Also, they always show the Western Auto sign at their games as well. I mean, if that ain't a reference back to the Future, and everything going on. Because this whole clock tower in Back to the Future is absolutely mental as well. Again, you've got to go back and check out some of the old decodes and stuff. But if you notice, when you amalgamate, this clock tower stuff with the dartboard, it starts becoming very interesting with the 911, and then this 237 236 or 239, which, and again, the 239 is on each side of this. And again, right now, from 9/11, okay, we are 23,900 and fill in the blanks, 23,900 and whatever days, depending on what date you're looking at surrounding this thing. Okay, I don't know how to explain it, but I think it was the 22nd, the 122 date that I was looking at for Madonna was 23,000 straight. And then, of course, add in, as we add on dates, these two numbers here, the 00 is going to become something else. The 31st was 009, wasn't it? So I don't know where we're at now. But anyway, again, this number 239 is is plutonium 239. Okay, so this is again with the plutonium reference. I'll tell you another thing. They like to use 1400 miles as the diameter for Pluto, even though it's 1476 point something. So this will become important here in a minute as well when we talk about Madonna again. But again, yeah, there we go with the and I think Madonna might have done Super Bowl, I think it was 54 when she did a dams, thing where she comes in on the chair that looks like a dam, and there's a bunch of references to the dam in there. I think it was. We'll look at it in a minute in the whatchamacalls it, the tabs that I've got up. Also, 236. There's an old reference to this. You can't find it anymore. It's changed to I think it's the 20. I think it's changed to the 29th of June now, but the 23rd of June was originally a date that I can't remember what it was. I think it was the single by Madonna was released for Who's That Girl. Okay, so that's kind of interesting with the reference to the Hoover. Okay, we'll do some other references to the Hoover in a minute as well. What was I saying about that Super Bowl? So that anyway, the 2020 Super Bowl, I can't remember which one it was now. The last one that the Chiefs, so they just played each other not that many years ago now. Chiefs played the 49ers, and the final score was, I believe, let's go back to these numbers here again. I think it was something like 20-31 or something. Chiefs won 31-20. Okay, a reference back to this date that's coming up. It's going to be 3 days inclusive. So, like the Last Supper, and then the complete rebirth on 2/13. But I still think the Hoover Dam thing is going to happen on the 11th. The reason being, well, number one, we can now say that that this 211 is actually, it's really these two numbers. It's really the balancing number for these two numbers. Okay, so it's really talking about. It can also be talking about not just Fibonacci, but the balancing Fibonacci sequence between these two things. So it's both of those sets of numbers combined as well. And not only that, but we want to look at completion of a cycle. Okay, we want to look at 1, 2, 3 here in the Lucas numbers. This is the number 10 is 1, 2, 3, and if you total up to that point, it's 321 is the total for up to this point. If we go from, this is what got me going on this 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3 before, this palindromic number, if that's even a word. What I was doing was I was going from the birthday of the Hoover Dam, which is September the 30th, 1935. Okay, and I was going 3, 2, 1, 2, 3 days, and where I was coming out at was not 9/11 2001, and that got me. No, it wasn't 2001. Take that back. It was 9/11 this last year. It was 9/11 2023. Okay. Also 2023. Yeah. 9/11 2023. And that's kind of important with this reference here, because what you'll notice in the table, if you kind of look at these things, is that this 322 is basically connected to this 321. Every single number in this table, like this 520 here, this 521, sorry, right here, which is at the top of the dartboard, what you have to do to get the counterpart 1 digit less number is basically, that's a total number. So you take this number that's in the table, and if you just jump over back to here, just jump over one column, ignore these grey ones, these are just totals that I've put in here for referencing up to the number 10. But if you just jump over one normal digit, one normal number in here, back to a particular point, which would be here, if you were to total up to this point now, this would be one less than here. Oh, blimmin' hell, that doesn't make any sense the way you're saying that. But anyway, this would be 520 right here. Okay, so 199, if you totaled up to including 199, it would be 520. If that makes sense. What I'm saying is every digit in here, give or take some of the numbers, like the number row itself at the top, has a counterpart 1 digit less lower number. Okay, that's important. Again, with that number there, ties back into all of this. So that's kind of interesting with that number there, that date. And again, the Skull and Bones number, and the Skull and Bones is the X marking the spot with the skull as the moon coming across, and the crossbones, as other people have pointed out, is the actual X on the skull is going to make the shadow of the X on across the United States of America. Okay, this also ties in a lot more than. There's a couple other spots where this 322 ties in, and I just don't know. I think I really need to cut this video short and just be done with it, to be quite honest. But anyway, so this number here, this 321123, with this reference right here, I was super thinking, wow, it's gonna be 9/11 this year. Back in 2023, I was like, it's gonna be that day. That's when the Hoover Dam's going to go, because that's such a good number jump and such a good reference back to the completion of a cycle here. I was like, it's got to be. But it did not happen. And but what I will say is, if you go to a different date that is referenced with the Hoover Dam, and the other date that's referenced is the Federal Exchange, back over to the Hoover Dam, over to the federal government. So going into the matrix is another great little reference to going into the matrix, because that's what the federal government is. So you have the birth, you have the real birth, and then you're handed over to this made up fictional entity of the federal government, right? And that date is the 1st of March, okay, 1936. And so what's interesting is, if you do that same number jump, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. Guess where that takes us? It takes us to the 11th of February this year, 2024. Mental, isn't it? It's absolutely mental. That was actually, so this is sometime before Christmas I was looking at this, and so I was like, ooh, that's absolutely crazy, and that's Super Bowl as well. You know, so you can see the kind of references coming together, and this fact that we're dealing with the twinism and the, you know, like the 49ers wear the same kind of colors, except they've got the gold in there as well, which would lead me to believe that the 49ers actually have to lose this one. Even though the Chiefs won the first, you know, you would have imagined that actually the Chiefs should have lost the first game against the 49ers and then won this game, you know, as the rebirth. But I think maybe this game might not even get finished. I would imagine if they were to do this ritual, you know, for the biggest sort of impact, what would it happen right around the 2-minute warning? I don't know, the warning. I would imagine the last quarter. Yeah, what I'm imagining is maybe like the 49ers kind of go up and are winning to begin with, and then it flips and the Chiefs come back, but the game never gets finished. So you know, you could pick a score out of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse here, and what score would I pick? This score right here, probably. So maybe, so the 14-20. So yeah, what I'd imagine is maybe the 49ers, because it kind of ties in with 49 there as well. Maybe the 49ers go up 2 converted scores, and then the Chiefs come back and they basically make 3 touchdowns and are short, miss a field goal, miss the extra point on one of them, if I'm getting all my numbers right there. But that would be a good one, wouldn't it? But then the game gets abandoned, you know, because again, we want, you know, the references coming all back to this central line here. Yeah, go on, let's do that for a prediction there. Let's just say that's going to be the prediction. Dan's going one step further this time. He's going to even predict the score. He can't even get the teams right to begin with. But he's going to go one step further and predict the score. Okay. What else? I don't know. Let's talk about, again, let's go back to Madonna with the 2-8 reference. Let's look at the 2-8 in here now. So here's 2, and let's look at 8. And so if we follow that down, we got to 4-7. And that 4-7, just coincidentally, again, with the 2-8 reference here. Remember I did the 122 date? Again, if we flip this, if we come back over with this, you know, we've got to lose 1 off the end of here. So it's not only a 123 reference, but 122, which again is a number jump in the dollar bill. And I did that Madonna prediction for 122. See how that ties in back to 47 as well, with 28, with 2-8. So we have all these references for 122. Well, actually, you could say, I could have said, it's going to be 2-8 because of all those references with 122. You know, just take it one more step. This is the problem with trying to predict stuff now, is where do you stop and start on the merry-go-round of numbers here? You know, where do you pick the on and off points? I don't know. So again, but the reason why this 47 is so important is because of this whole Pluto bloody ritual thing, with Pluto coming back around, and you know, the rebirth of the United States, I guess, the death and rebirth of the United States, 4/7, 1776. Well, guess what? if we go from Madonna's birthday through to 2/8 again, guess how many days that is? 176 days. This is starting to look interesting with the old reference back to Pluto finishing its orbit in relationship to the star of the United States, 4/7/1776, or 7/4, whatever you want to say the date. Okay, so Madonna's now referencing the beginning again. And who was the first president? Who was the alpha? Who's stuck in the omega now, on the back of the dollar, on the front of the dollar bill, back of the front of the dollar bill? Washington. Washington is that geezer that is in the dollar bill that's stuck in the dam right now. So I have this reference back with, you know, Madonna, the start of the United States, the Pluto finishing its second part of its orbit to make that completion on Donald Trump's birthday. But remember, the other orbit of, or at least the way I was looking at the orbits in relationship to the sun, was the Queen's birthday, is where Pluto finishes, and that's what gave us the 11/17 midpoint between those two dates of Donald Trump. Again, flip that around, flip that 9 to a 6, and again 6/14 Donald Trump and the Queen here. Okay, so you know what you just can't believe this stuff. And actually, the midpoint between the other two is, I can't remember exactly, but it's something around, I want to say it's something around this day here. It's either the 18th, it's either 5/18 or 19 or 20, and all these numbers, you know, the 5, 19, 18 and 20 and 21 all tie in with this midpoint of the other side of the cycle. So the opposite side to, how do I explain it, to balance this 11/17. Danny DeVito, by the way. Another reference to myself. Anyway, let me show you a couple other little interesting things. So that's how that ties back to that 2/8 there. What other bits and bobs have we got with the 2/8? What other references have we got in here? There's just so much to go through. I'm sorry about this video being so long. Hopefully it's interesting. Let's look at another 1776 and 176 that's in here. Right, so we can see this right now, and I was just saying about that 176-day jump. And notice that it's pretty important because, look, 3/14 is the cross reference, which is pi. Okay, and that is this jump for Madonna. Okay, from her birthday through to potentially a couple of, another day's time. Again, that number jump, this reference to pi is the beginning of this thing. Yeah. And what's so interesting about it is the fact that this thing's in the middle of it. This is on this number line. And actually, thank you to, I didn't realize this, but when I did catch that Seeks his video, he did mention that the ascension of Jesus Christ would have taken place 10 days earlier than Pentecost, and so that would put you at a 5/9 reference there, and obviously you can steal that 1 off the 14 there and make the 5/19 as well. So again, this this number before that is important. And again, in the dollar bill, 3/14, which is referenced in the dollar bill, and also 3/15 is referenced with the little owl fold where we have pi referenced, which is the 314th day of the year, which is 10/11, the 10th of November, and then you have the following day, which is 3/15, 315th day of the year, which is 11/11. And again, the 11/11 is important because of the Hoover Dam and the 11/11 right here, the resurrection of the temple, if you like. Anyway, so this is kind of nuts as well with this reference here, because let's look at what we've got going on with the cross references. Again, the 14 with Pluto, okay, and then the 15, okay, and the 15 again, Mahomes' number 100. Obviously, I want to say it's if you go the opposite direction with Madonna's birthday. Can't remember it off the top of my head. I think it's 150 days. 176. 17. Oh, blooming hell! Don't go on that. 176. I can't do maths in my head. Plus, that's only 100. That's not right. I don't know what it is. 150. There's a 150-day jump. I'll show you in a minute. And obvious. What was I going to say about this? Oh, the other thing I was going to mention was this thing with Taylor Swift here as well. The 14th, remember, is 12/14 at least, is Washington's death. Okay, so again, that's important to note. And also this other reference here with the 843. Okay, and remember, there's, if we jump back over one, we get to our total for 843, which actually is 842, which is over in this 12th column. So what we're seeing here is a 14 number here referencing back to 12/14, yeah, Washington's death. And again, check it out, 248, if you read that number backwards, is our Pluto cycle, which is, again, you know, things like Bye Bye Miss American Pie, as 8 minutes 42 long, that song by Dawn. And then you can see that now pairs up with the 322, and you can see how we go around in circles on the merry-go-round here of these numbers tying together. Something else was interesting about this. I think I've got to go to now I'm going to reference in something else and make this even more complicated, but it'll be like an aha moment, okay, which is, this is just going to be one mega video, I'll tell you. Oh, that was something else I wanted to reference in, was, yeah, the 12/13 of Taylor Swift. Now you can kind of look at some of the numbers that surround her with her birthday, 12/13. Obviously, it's one day before Washington's death, but also with the number 14 here. Yeah. And then, of course, we can reduce that to a 14, and we can reduce this to a 23, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, now you're looking at like references to the dartboard straight up and down. You're looking at references. This 223 obviously is an inversion of 322 of the Skull and Bones number, and you can see why Taylor Swift has to be at this thing, because obviously we'll go to the gematria in a minute, but there's a reference to Taylor Swift to Madonna as well. And so we're going around in circles with all the female archetype type characters, but the female characters that are within the story are all referencing back to these same numbers as well. I don't know. Anyway, of course you can pick a load of other numbers out here, like the 411. You know, if you go to the coordinates of the Hoover Dam, 114 degrees west, I think, something like that. You know, so you can, top of the dartboard here. You know, these are Christmas numbers as well. And there's so many different ways this stuff ties together. Let me show you something else here. Let's do this one. This is going to go this is mental. Let's do this. So when we think of female characters, famous female characters, and famous events within the history of the United States, right? There's a couple that spring to mind. I mean, obviously, there's like the moon. There's obviously like Pearl Harbor. There's wars. You know, obviously. Oh, actually, that would be better. That's the 1939 to 1945. 14 to 18. 1914 to 1818. So you don't have to go very far to start picking out important numbers, right, with this thing. But let me just re-reference this as well. Hoover Dam numbers are here. Dates for the birth of the Hoover Dam and the transfer over as well. So you don't have to go very far for important numbers. But there's one huge important number which is right at the top of this thing. And you have to understand the idea of reversing 2 and 5. The reason why 2 and 5 is so important for reversing, there's several reasons, but if you total up the regular number line here, right, what you're going to do is you get to the number 15 here. You know, so 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, okay, is 15. Then you total up to this point, well, 15 plus 6 is 21. And what you'll see is you have a mirror again of these two numbers. Okay, so 2 is 5. So it's super important to understand that those two numbers are mirror numbers, right? Because in the top of the dollar bill, there's two number jumps right at the top. And I think what they're inferring is the mirroring of 155 and 122. There's two big number jumps. The 122 number jump, which goes from 55, which takes us to 49, okay, which happened to be Labor Day this year, but that's the 49, and I think it had to be this year, you know. And then there's also the 155 day jump, again, right here. The 155 day jump goes from 9/11, 254th day of the year, back through to the start of the cycle again, back through to 213, to 13th Feb. Those are things that are in the dollar bill. Well, and again, in Back to the Future, this is referenced as well, but this number here, obviously now, might make more sense as a huge number in the history of the United States, which is 11/22. You've got to reverse that 55 to the 22, and that is JFK's assassination date. Right here at the top of this thing. You know, Marty says when he's at his grandparents, that's a block past Maple. Yeah, JFK. Who the hell's JFK? And again, a block past Maypole actually is pretty interesting, because if you convert Maypole 5-1, again 5-1, important, when we were, you know, with the 105 days from Christmas, but the 5-1 Maypole, if you convert that over, May is opposite November, so Maypole becomes 1-1-1, okay, you know, to do with November. And if you go 100 days from there, I'm pretty sure it takes you to the, I want to say 2-9 to balance. But this is interesting with this block past Maypole that's in there, and this 2-9, and everything with this, you know, with the 2-11. Again, just delete off one of these. And again, you know, maybe I should call this video End of the World Blackjack. You know, 21. What is Vegas known for? Gambling. 21. Blackjack. Alright, so anyway, so we've got JFK's, so 21, blackjack, yeah. So we've got JFK's assassination date in here. Super duper important. Obviously, it would have been difficult to have done the 55th day of November, okay? But I mean, maybe they could have done it the other way around. They could have done the 11th of May. But yeah. Anyway, so this really ties in very nicely now, because this date here as well, right? The 211 obviously ties in nicely with 1122. Also, what is going on here is this is Washington's. If you go back to the old calendar, this is Washington's original birthday, the 11th of February. And of course, when they changed calendars, it actually converted over to the 22nd of February. Okay, so that's kind of interesting, because there's something that's kind of, you know, when I say this, you'll know it, but there's a song that is referenced with JFK, and it's Happy Birthday. And Marilyn Monroe sings him Happy Birthday. You've probably heard the takeoffs, you know, and I think Madonna's done a version of it on Saturday Night Live before, and you've probably seen it on, like, is it on Wayne's World? Do they do it on Wayne's World? And there's been in several other, you know, shows and whatnot. It's, you know, one of those knocked off ideas. Happy birthday, Mr. President. But this is what we're dealing with, is the idea of coming out the dam is the birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Okay. And now I'll start linking in with the other numbers here. So, blimmin' hell. She sings that to him on the 19th of May. 519, the dreaded 519 day, right, is when Marilyn Monroe, it's a big clue to this, is Marilyn Monroe sings to JFK, okay, to JFK on 519. Happy birthday, Mr. President, okay. Washington's birthday is 2/11 in the old calendar. So you can see that's quite a nice connection. But now, what's even more mental is the fact that Madonna is constantly doing the Marilyn Monroe act. You know, who's that girl? That she has the little Betty Boop character, but she's really, it's really a takeoff of Marilyn Monroe. And I don't know if Marilyn Monroe, you know, she, you know, is that kind of era where you know, that early sort of sex symbolism, bombshell type stuff, Marilyn Monroe, and then the cartoon character Betty Boop. It's all that same kind of idea. And so let me show you something here. I got something interesting here. Just look at this. It's absolutely crazy. Look, Madonna, Madonna blows chunks. A sight for people who dislike Madonna. Great. Surely there's something better to do with your time than to dislike Madonna that badly. But look what they've put together here. So Norma Jean, which is her, I guess, her name before she changed it to Marilyn Monroe, sort of stage name. Okay, we're going to go through it. This is a blimmin' hell of a long list, but look, I'm just going to scroll through quickly. You can see the Madonna version of it. So this is all the rip-off stuff. Here's the Madonna version of it. It's absolutely mental, this. Look at this. Monroe, Madonna. Monroe, Madonna. Okay, so you can see, you know, even the look, even the way they've done the makeup and everything, you know, some of these are better than others. But you can tell, you know, there's a hell of a lot of referencing going on here, you know. It's just absolutely crazy. This is endless, this list. It just goes on forever. Look, you know, I mean, just on and on and on and on. Oh dear. Okay, so you get the idea. We don't need to go through the whole thing. But, well, there's Who's That Girl? Okay. So we'll go to the gematria and some other stuff, but we've got this sort of connection again with Madonna, Marilyn Monroe, and now Happy Birthday, Mr. President, JFK's assassination, the death of one president, the resurrection, the idea of death and resurrection. So let's look at some in here. Let's look at some gematria so we can just tie this a little bit more together. Oh, I've got all kinds of stuff in here as well to go through, but let's look. Look, here's Taylor Swift, 168. Okay, Madonna's birthday, the 16th of August. So we got to have Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl, right? Look at the Madonna again. Madonna is 6226. This is really interesting. Just like Train was, where's Train on here? 6226. Okay, but what's interesting about 6226 is that Marilyn Monroe is born in 1926 and dies in 1962. So that's a really nice connection there with Marilyn Monroe. Notice that Madonna has the 127 and Marilyn Monroe is at 172. You know, notice that Madonna has a 37 and Marilyn Monroe has a 73. You know, pretty reasonable connections there, but the 2662 thing is pretty mental. Again, Marilyn Monroe dies when she's 36 years old. Same as I think Diana was 36 when she died. Okay. Here's Norma Jean Mortensen, her full name. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but notice the 229. Madonna's birthday this year is on the 229th day of the year, and this year is a leap year, 229. Okay. Check out the 104, the Pluto thing. Okay, with the 104. I've got Norma Jean in there, two different spellings. I think it's without, should be without the E, but I thought, well, we'll put it with the E as well. 42, the 42nd day of the year, 211. 174 again, tying back to Independence Day, the start of the whole thing. Okay. And you know, you can go on. You know, we're just picking out, but there are, you know, we've got a few matches in here. I wouldn't call them super matches, but they are tying together. Oh, and then I haven't even got onto the Madonna stuff that I need to get onto. So this is all interesting, right? And we got this tie-in with JFK and Marilyn Monroe, and I'm probably forgetting a whole bunch of stuff here, and even Taylor Swift's tying in with the numbers pretty good as well. And so I've got Cleveland down in the bottom of here with the 78 again, you know, with Taylor Swift's man's numbers, 87, Kelsey, and the 33 as well with the resurrection, and also the 48 with the date for the cross, you know. So let me go and show you now this reference to Cleveland. Okay. Let me see if I can find it up here. But here we go. Ghost Town. Let's do this one first, actually. Okay. The song Ghost Town from Madonna. I want you to look at this release date, 13th of March, Easter this year. Check out the 409 for the length of the song. Again, last year that was Easter. So this idea of resurrection, pretty interesting. Oh, sorry, 31st of March is Easter. Just flip that 13 around, sorry. But anyway, what do I want to show you here? So Ghost Town. Let's go to Ghost Town now. See if I've got it up here. Right, at the end of Ghost Town, these two have kind of teamed back up again, and everything's starting over again. And the orphan child is together. They're all back together again. Okay. Notice the 2-8 here. So this was the thing. This thing's been sat in the back of my mind for quite some time. This 2-8 that's on the side of this dumpster or whatever the hell it is, as they're finishing this video. Anyway, this how do I say this? This wasn't really the whole thing that got me started on the 2-8. I guess we'll come to it right at the end of this, but just I wanted you to notice this character here. This reminded me of Short Round out of they've got this Asian kid, and it reminded me of Short Round out of Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom, you know, where the water rushes out of the cauldron, like the dam's blowing open, water is coming down the tunnel, like being rebirthed, you know, into the canyon, like the Grand Canyon, you know. And of course then you've got also the next one on from that, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is actually, but I think they filmed them around the other way. They seem to like to do their films back to front. What was I going to say though? But again, you know, and Raiders of the Lost Ark with the Raiders at the Lost Ark, and then of course you can go link back into some more Lucas stuff with the Death Star, and of course they've got the Death Star Stadium at Vegas. That's the Death Star Stadium, and of course the Trench Run is the Dam Busters, taken from the Dam Busters and 633 Squadron. It's all lifted from other films that reference blowing up dams or blowing up something in a valley, you know, the V2 rocket, you know. It's all, you know, I don't know what to say, you know, it's all the same stuff re-referenced. The Death Star is the moon, is the Matrix, the bastardized version of the moon, should I say. Anyway, this kid, Short Round, is also in the Goonies, which has a ton of references to all this stuff as well. Has a couple of personal references in there as well. It's just that the Goonies is mental as well. But this guy, I was like, you know what? I'm going to look him up and just see what his birthday is, because, you know, it's just weird that they picked a kid that just looks like. Let me see if I can find him now. Oh dear, oh dear. We'll go to Marilyn Monroe and look at some of her numbers as well. Sorry, this video is going to be really, really long. Here he is. I can't even say that name, but look at the birthday. 8/20. You can't write it, I tell you. Every time I click on something right now, it's like, oh my goodness, you just can't believe it, you know. 8/20. Unbelievable. So we've got another 8/2 reference there. Right, get rid of that. Oh, this Cleveland reference. Let's go on to the Cleveland, right? So what got me started on this? What got me started on this 2/8 date was I'd noticed in here that Cleveland here was on February the 8th, and I happened to go. So this is the current Madonna tour, but because the tour got changed, right, earlier on, they had some different dates for this. Where the hell are my? Yeah, these are the old dates here. So let's go to the old dates now. And this is just something I noticed, is that when we go to the old dates, oh, it's right up here, isn't it? Oh, I gotta go. Here it is. The old dates, everything else has changed in the old dates apart from at least I think they've all changed. What is matching up between the two different sets of tour, the tour that got cancelled and the tour that is now on, is this 8/2 with Cleveland, except this is August the 2nd instead of the other way around, whatever it is, the 8th of February. So it's the only date that stayed kind of with the same numbers. So I'm like, ooh. Plus, this St. Paul reference right here with 213 is a personal. Again, St. Paul's another personal reference for me, so it kind of made it stand out more for me. And I'm like, 2/8. Well, I just started looking at it, and of course, I'm thinking, oh, the dumpster in Ghost Town was 2/8, you know. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder what else is significant about the 2/8. And then I saw I only just did that cycle thing and saw that the 2/8 was involved with the Fibonacci cycle thing. And so there's also, some other sort of less insignificant kind of things, but this 2/8 is like, coming out. It's pretty significant now. The more I've looked at it, Anyway, this Cleveland reference. So this takes me to Cleveland, of all places, and of course Cleveland initially sparks my thoughts of Grover Cleveland, which I probably wouldn't have known anything about Grover Cleveland except that Jurassic Liars. I don't know if he still goes on about him, but I'm sure he's mentioned him several times in the past. Because of this, there's a jump in his presidencies. He has the 22nd and the 24th. So 23 is missing. So already we've got a 23 reference, again, straight up and down on the dartboard, which takes us back to 211 and all that stuff with the 23 reference. But also, for me, the 22 is, again, 2020 was when we were back at the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, and of course we had that whole thing with Kobe in that Super Bowl. So we had that whole death ritual with Kobe, and now maybe we'll see the same thing repeated again with Madonna. They'll have a big, Madonna this, Madonna that in the Super Bowl, like they did with Kobe. I still haven't figured out why his helicopter changed from black to blue and white in the wreckage. I don't know yet. Still trying to figure that one out. But the 42 or the 24, sorry, and then the 42, and this whole thing with the 24 digits of Fibonacci now, and then 42 being the 42nd day of the year being 211. Blimmin' hell. Pretty interesting. And also, check this out. June 24th death. Again, blimmin' Madonna's ICU thing was June 24th. I'm pretty sure it was June the 24th. Was it June the 24th? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, of course, with the Super Bowl in Cleveland, you think of the Cleveland Browns. And I'm thinking, this connects to so many things, like Doc Brown, like Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown, where's Bobby Brown in here? And obviously Bobby Brown connects to Whitney Houston, married to Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston is 211 death. And Bobby Brown actually he did the music for, just think to me, is Ghostbusters 2. And there's a bunch of damn stuff in there as well, with like the Red River and everything. Yeah, so anyway, I'm thinking, what else am I thinking with Brown? I'm thinking that connects back to Dr. Dre. And what else was I thinking? Anyway, the Cleveland Browns, right? Which is interesting again. So if we go to, where's Ohio here? I don't even know what got done here now. There's some stuff in here I'd like to show you as well. We probably should just click through all these and just go through them here in a minute. I've talked about most of this stuff now. There's Bobby Brown. But the interesting thing about Bobby Brown, his birthday, he's 55 this year, and his birthday was, look, the 5-2 again. Those were two special numbers with like reversing, and the gateway. Yeah, the gateway here. The gateway here with the 5 and the 2. Remember, the gateway is, let's just do it, 5, okay, and then let's put the 2 up against it as a mirror, and what do you get? You got the cup of Christ, okay? It's a really good little sort of symbolic sort of thing with the 52. It's the two faces, yeah, facing off against each other. Strickland and Marty at the start of Back to the Future. There's the wine inside the cup, inside the goblet, inside the cup of Christ. Okay, the Last Crusade. But anyway, yeah, that's it with Bobby Brown. That's pretty cool. The 5-2. I could have almost talked about 5-2 for Madonna as well, because there's quite a few references back to the 5th of February. But you know, and here's another one back to the 5th of February. Look at this. Who's That Girl? Eve, released 5th of February. Look at the 4442. The 44th day of the year is 213, and the 42nd day of the year again is 211. Who's that girl? Just like Madonna did. Who's that girl? So, you know, what else we got for her? She's a November the 10th reference, a 1011. Yeah, like in the dollar bill, like in the gateway there to the. Anyway, let's get rid of some of this, because if I can get rid of some of these, oh, here's the score, and you add up somewhere. Also, look at the symbolism of San Francisco and the Chiefs. Check the arrowhead out, and then check the Vesica Pisces out for San Francisco. So that's pretty interesting as well. And you know, based on the colours, again with the 49ers having that kind of gold tint to it, like the false idol somewhat. You could look at it like that. It makes you think that the 49ers are maybe the team that has to be sacrificed. Yet that is the same thing that has to be resurrected as well. So I don't know. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter which team wins actually at the end of the day, because it will still fulfill the. Just depends on the way you look at the story, sort of thing. Let's get rid of that as well. Oh, the Sator Square. I'll go. I'll maybe do that in a minute. We'll just go through that in a minute. What else do I want to say about JFK? Oh, there was something interesting about JFK as well. Was the fact that when Marilyn Monroe sung that happy birthday to him, it was 10 days early. Okay, just like we've got this 10-day jump between the ascension of Christ and then the return of the Holy Spirit in Pentecost. So, or at Pentecost, I don't know. And obviously Pentecost is 7 sevens is 49, plus you include the Sunday of Easter as well. Depending on the way you count your numbers, but anyway, it comes out at 50, you know, the bullseye. So again, it's interesting with the 7 sevens and the 777, 21, again blackjack, and the 777 on your gambling machines there in Vegas as well. So you're getting 21 references quite a bit in Vegas. I don't know about any of the other card games and dice and all that other stuff, and roulette and all that. So, but anyway, I don't know if there's anything I wanted to say about him. It's interesting he dies in 63, and Marilyn Monroe is 36, and also he's He doesn't die in 63, you retard. He die. When does he die? He dies in 70, 60 something. Oh, he does die in 63. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I am reading it right. What was I gonna say? Oh, okay. Yeah, there's his birth year. Okay, and it's a 917 reference. The 1917. So that's kind of interesting as well, with the whole that's that whole side of this whole bit here. Okay, back with Madonna being right here, and let me show you this right now, and also this idea of the 77 again, 7 sevens again, taking us up to the dove from above returning. Also 1011 as well here. This has that same set of numbers there, and losing track of where I'm even going here now. Come on down. What was you going to say? I can't remember. I completely lost my train of thought there now. Oh, that's what I was going to show you. I was going to show you the Sator square because of that 7 sevens. Yeah, let me show you that. So notice this line coming across here with Madonna's numbers in it. Okay. And I was looking at this, and then we've also got this 14 kind of close to the center of this whole thing as well, right? I'm thinking Sator square with the N, with 10 with the N at the center of the thing. And so I'm like, I wonder if there's any kind of reference there, you know, that with that diagonal. And so if you do go to it, this is what's interesting, is if you go to the, I know this is probably getting a bit off topic now, but if you go to the actual thing itself, Sator, right, already got the 73 and the 62, so we're already sort of tying into Madonna, you know, with the 37, and you know, all these other characters with Marilyn Monroe, with the 62, yeah. So we're tying in already, and Marilyn Monroe is born. I think she's born 6/1. I think she's born the 1st of June. So this, you know, 19 and 16s obviously are going to be, 61s are going to be interesting as well with her, 91s. But if you do the numbers, the letters that go across in that same diagonal, it was just interesting because it's 82, so like with the 28, and then we've also got, you know, these same, you know, we've got a 26 in here, and we've got the 37, and I'm like thinking, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like if we look at the thing, hang on a minute. Oh, hang on a minute. Where was it? Down here somewhere, probably. If you look at the thing, well, let's make it a bit bigger, see if that'll make it bigger. Come on. Anyway, you can see that diagonal RPNPR is going in that same direction as, you know, Madonna's sort of birthday numbers with the 77. So I just thought it was interesting. I don't know if it really means that much or not. It's just kind of a interesting thing. I think we're done with JFK, to be quite honest. I'll try and remember everything else. And let's just go through these things now and be done. Raiders of the Lost Ark. 150, 115. There's our same numbers with JFK there. Again, happy birthday, Mr. President. For real. And actually, with the 126 here, that's kind of interesting with the 2020. Was one? It was on. He was on the 26th, wasn't he? Kobe. That's kind of interesting. And then Temple of Doom. And if you go through these people, the people that are in the film, and you go through the birthdays, it is just absolutely mental. The birthdays are just mental. It's almost like they picked these people just because of the birthday. So I'd highly recommend that, going through and just looking at that. But just the dates is 118 minutes long. Oh, you know, I mean, just oh. What have I got here? Okay, yeah, this is Pentecost, or however you say that. May 19th. Okay, and because I was kind of wondering, because I've come across a lot of May 19th references myself, but We Seek has just tons of them, absolutely loads and loads of them. I was just wondering how, you know, is it going to tie together at some point? And maybe it looks like this year is like all these dates are tying together this year, so it's kind of mental. There's our Shrove Tuesday. That's actually absolutely mental as well. And we've got the 47 referenced again before Easter, 47 days before Easter. 47, oh dear, Independence. Okay, and then Easter this year, the 31st of March. Let me show you the 31st of March in here again, in case we're missing this stuff. The 31st of March. Okay. It's just crazy. Okay, let's get off of this. Let's get rid of that. Okay, Joe Montana. I wanted to show you Joe Montana real quick because, of course, he has a connection, obviously, with San Francisco. He played for the 49ers, and then he finished out with the Chiefs. Look at the cut. You know, they're almost like twin teams. You know. Again, that takes me back to Cleveland. Hang on a minute. We'll go to Cleveland if I can remember what I'm doing here. Just before we go there, though, Joe Montana, just the name, Montana. You know, we could break that name down, but I just want to look at his actual. He's actually 67 this year, so this is kind of interesting with that number jump with Madonna. And June the 11th. Of course, 611 is the horizontal bar in the dartboard. Okay, that's both sides of the cross that's in the dartboard. So this is pretty interesting with the June the 11th, with the 611. But I just wanted to mention that because he kind of ties those two teams together. And of course, he's like one of the best quarterbacks, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know a lot about it, but you know, he's like a name that everybody knows. Okay. I'm gonna go to Cleveland in a minute. This is the. If I could just remember, go back to Cleveland, Dan. This is like the only picture of these two together, JFK and Marilyn Monroe, and she's in the. I think, is she at the White House here or somewhere else? That's what does it say? Oh, Madison Square Garden. Okay. Madison at Hollywood Manhattan Townhouse. This is really interesting because this picture of her right here really reminds me of the aliens getting into dressing up as the woman in to get into the White House in Mars Attacks. Really reminds me a lot of that here, right? So anyway, I thought I'd mention that. What else we got here? Marilyn Monroe herself. Okay, you can see now the 1926-62 reference. This June the 1st. Remember that the first chart that we looked at, if you can remember that far back now. 19 at the top of that, again with the 911, but the 19, June the 1st, and also the first quarter was 8-4, and of course Marilyn Monroe with this 8-4 cross right now. So that 8-4 is on the cross in that cycle with the Fibonacci, reduced Fibonacci. So that's absolutely mental. I don't think we need to do much more on her really. This I kind of really don't want to lose this. It's WordPress. Madonna is unoriginal. Yada yada yada. Be interesting to find that again. I might leave that up for now. So I'm quite finished looking at that. Super Bowl thing. Again, this Super Bowl. Look what date. This is the, what is this? 46. Super Bowl 46. Is that right? That is Super Bowl 46, isn't it? Yeah. Super Bowl 46, and what did I want to say about this? Again, isn't JFK 46 when he dies? Mental. And here's the 2-5 for the date again. Lucas Oil Stadium. Lucas. You just can't write this stuff. And I think, hang on a minute. There it is. Okay. Just look at the bridge stone. The stone bridge. It's a solid stone bridge. It's the dam. It's the bridge that's a solid stone. Kind of interesting, isn't it? It's a solid concrete bridge. Traffic used to go across that thing. They've got that bypass bridge now. They've got the Tillman Bridge there instead. I just thought this was interesting. I don't know what this is right here, but it kind of like I don't know what that's supposed to say, move or something. I'm not sure, but it just kind of reminded me of HOV. I don't know. Anyway, that was the Madonna halftime thing. I don't think we really need that up anymore. Let's have a look at this. Happy birthday, Mr. President. We've talked about the May 19th date that occurred on. Madison Square Garden. There's probably some references with her tour back to this Madison Square Garden. And Mr. President. And again, the president that we may be seeing the birthday for is Washington. Okay. Here is Ohio. I've talked about Ohio before because of, like, if you anagram that, you have like I who, or the who I, and so like with the Hoover Dam and the eye of the Hoover, the place where we have to get out of, that has to be opened up again. Kind of interesting with Ohio, and it's also the Buckeye State, the buck, the dollar bill, the Buckeye. Look what's at the center of it there, capital Columbus, like the columns, or the again, that's to do with the founding again of the United States as well, and also, you know, like the two columns that fell down, that busted, the columns that got bust. And these are the twin teams here, yeah, the Cleveland Browns, CB, and the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, and Sin City, Vegas is Sin City, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Eveland, the true sort of like the wilderness. Oh yeah, I don't know. The Cleveland Browns can never win anything. It's like man, you know, the Matrix. If you want to be, what I say, the natural man, you're treated like the brown doo-doo, basically. Expelled into the wilderness. You also got this idea with Cleveland, because this is interesting as well. The actual path of the eclipse is going to go right through here as well, through Cleveland, cleaving the land in two, and also the idea of cleaving land with the Sin City, which is the city-state, and then the wilderness again. It's just mental. Anyway, we're done with that. I wanted to mention that idea because they're really twin teams. They've even got the same kind of colours, you know, orange and black more so, and then kind of more orangey, but they're, you know, twin teams. Yeah. Right, done with that. What else? Matthew Perry. Let's just note Matthew Perry has the same, kind of the same birthday as Madonna. Okay. What I'm talking about is this 19 just flips to the 16. And again, that death date of the 28th of October, and then Madonna with maybe 2/8. We'll have to wait and see. But I just thought it was interesting. What else? We've done Grover, and we've done the tour. Don't we want to get rid of that quite yet? We've done Taylor Swift, the 12/13. That's pretty important. I mean, the whole thing with Taylor Swift is just kind of just ties back in with Madonna, you know, with the 168 on a gematria, and this is kind of like I don't know if they've done any kind of comparisons with Madonna and said maybe she's the next Madonna. Maybe that's been said, maybe it hasn't, but this is kind of what we're looking at here. Is like we're gonna have her at the Super Bowl, and we've had her at the run up to this thing as like taking over from Madonna, like the new version. Okay, Madonna 2.0, Blumenel. I wanted to mention something with Michael Jackson, but I can't remember what it was now. So let's not worry about it for right now. And I've got the gematria stuff up. Did we miss anything in here? I think that you can flip that around to a the Cleveland will flip to a 519 as well. That's interesting. Number jumps. Oh, I thought this was interesting. From 2/8. I just have it in. I don't know why I have it in 2021, but 2001. I mean, we could actually change that to and see what it is. 101 days, like the Hoover Dam gematria. 101. 101 Dalmatians. This was also interesting. Madonna's birthday through to Taylor Swift's birthday in just a normal calendar year, 119 days. Kind of interesting connection there. Oh, let me show you this as well. What you'll see, I want to show you this connection with the 14 and Pluto, right? Because God knows how these people do this. This is just absolutely terrible, but this is picking out numbers. The reason why it's done like this is to pick out certain numbers, you know. But they've got the comparisons of sizes here, and they've got Earth as 8,000 miles diameter. They've got the Moon as 2,100, and then they've got Pluto as 1,400, right? Now, of course, this is not what they actually are. They've rounded these, and they've rounded them in very strange and unique ways. Please, oh, this is an actual proper, I think this is some kind of space organization. Is this the European or Department of the nonsense or what? I don't know what it is. I don't even keep up on this nonsense anymore. But for people that are supposed to be good at maths and they're doing this kind of rounding, it's just terrible. So let's look why they've decided to encode 821, which is Pluto again with the 218 and also the 14 here. Let's look. Let's go to the table first. So the 14 obviously with Pluto with the 1400. And then obviously the moon ties into that with the 2100. And also the start of this whole thing with the 21 and the 2001, and going to the moon in 2001. And then we have the 8,000, the 8, this 8,000 that they've decided to reference for the Earth. But in fact, actually, they'd have been better off doing something like this. 7-9 for the Earth. Let's go look at those actual proper numbers now, and we'll see what's going on. Why they've decided to reference this certain way. Right, let's get that nonsense gone. Here we go. The Earth, right here. This is what they're telling us right here. 7,900. There's the 9. There's that 917 number again with the Earth. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, surely they should have just rounded this to 7,900. Oh dear. And again, here is Pluto with the 14, and in here we've got the start of the USA, with the diameter. Okay, we've got 4/7/1776. Okay, so that's interesting, but this should really be rounded up to 15. So that's pretty mental. And then here's the moon. We should probably be rounding this up to 22. Again with the 22 reference, but they decided to use 21, and obviously the 159. Again, the dove from above returning. 159. Hello, the moon is the dove from above. It's Mary that's got to return. The Holy Spirit. This is the fifth element. Got to return, right? Okay. What else do I want to say? I think I've covered everything. I think I've got to stop it here. We did the two different, the I, and so this is the 0, and then we've got arrowhead is the number 1 that's going to penetrate. It's going to penetrate the defenses of San Francisco, and we are going to have rebirth. Yes, with the phallic symbol of the Chiefs going into that thing. Okay. It'd be nice if they could somehow have it tied, actually, wouldn't it? And then the game didn't get finished. Be interesting, wouldn't it? It could be something that would reference 33. I think 30 to 30 is a bit out of the question, but here's that number jump from the 1st of March through. Here we go. Here's that 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. Cool stuff. And I'm really running out of steam. Excuse me. This was, oh yeah, that was that Super Bowl that she did. 46. The numbers were kind of interesting again, with that being in there, with 211 being in there, and then her tour with the start date of Madonna's tour in there as well. I just thought it was interesting. What else? I keep all these tabs up. There's, the flux capacitor. Oh, well, we'll just note one thing with the flux capacitor. Two things with, well, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the actual thing itself is up one way, and then the drawing of it is up the other way. Ah, there it is. Okay, so let's do the table, and I'll just show you something. Again, this is why, this reference back to JFK now is so important. Yeah, because we've got this up one way, like this, and then we've got the flip of it as well, which is Easter 187, and this down here as well. So, you know, you've got JFK and then whatever going on down here with the Queen. I think I'm going to leave it there. This video is probably 2 hours long. I think I've covered everything that I really wanted to delve into. I really haven't covered many of the number jumps. There's actually some more interesting number jumps as well. Maybe some people can put them in the comments for me, because I can't be, you know, this can't go on any longer, can it, this video? Oh, blimmin' hell. What was this? Oh yeah, this was again through to the 13th of September. This was 2001 9/11 through. You know, here's these numbers again. Madonna numbers, Matthew Perry numbers. Super interesting. What else? What other number jumps we got in here? I don't know why I've got that one in there. Oh, I think I was starting to look at Elvis as well. We've got to remember Elvis ties into this as well, because of his death date being the same as Madonna's birthday. And this is the Queen's death through to that 8th of February, the 153. I really like the 153 because of this Vesica Pisces reference with it. I think we're done. I'm not going to go back through. I mean, I've talked about the actual. What have I talked about before? I've talked about Madonna's. Have I talked about Madonna's birthday this year? Journeyman keeps saying to me, I think he's mentioned it a couple of times, and I said, she's probably just going to die on the 29th of February, Dan. Could well be, because of course her numbers 229 here. We're in, so there you can see it. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, especially with the one, you know, that 713 that was in the last video, the last talking about the 131. I will mention this as well. At the end of that celebration video, so I was talking about all of these singles, these songs that she had released up to this point, coinciding with her tour. Obviously, Celebration, the name of this one, coinciding with the tour. And this was released on the 31st of July, again with Indiana Jones. That's Harrison Ford's birthday, I think, 31st of July. But that, you know, that 137 reference again. And at the end of this video, I don't know if I mentioned this, but she's got the boots on that are flickering with a blue, dark blue color. Eventually they turn to black and she dies, basically at the end of this video. She keels over, basically. And she kind of covers up her butt as well, which is kind of interesting as she goes down. I'll mess around finding the spot now, but oh, I can't find it. But anyway, there's a reference again to her keeling over at the end of the celebration. I wonder what moment in the video that actually occurs at. It would be interesting if it was, because let's look at this. See this 337 here? Let me show you something. It's not actually 337 where she's dying, but let me show you why. Ah, yeah, I've missed out a big point of this. See, this is a problem with me. Even if I had this all written down, I'd probably miss this out. But JFK's death, this is the big tie-in. Gosh darn it, Daniel, you're forgetting stuff that's important. Where do I want to go to? Let me show you this. So JFK, let's go to his, where the hell are we at? November the 22nd. So you can see it's 39, right? 39 days left, 327 days gone. Yeah? And remember the 2-2. You know, I don't, what was I talking about? Oh, with Cleveland, with the 2-2. Remember this 2-2? 327. Right, now go to the other side of the year. Oh, I should have probably done the other way around, but anyway. Let's go to the other side of the year. So let's look at February the 8th. Oh, lo and behold, this is the other side of the year to JFK's death. Okay. Would they put Madonna's death on the twin date for JFK's death, with Madonna's reference to Marilyn Monroe and that whole thing with JFK and Marilyn Monroe going on? You know, was there an affair? Wasn't there an affair? And happy birthday, Mr. President. And you know, both those things have to die. You know what I'm saying about death and resurrection is both those things have to die. Yeah, they're both the same thing essentially. The Matrix is the evil twin. You know, is the one twin that's caught up in the Matrix. It's the ego side of ourselves that we have to let go of. That thing has to die so that we can be resurrected in Christ, so we can be resurrected into the natural, back into the natural world, the world that God intended us to be in, right? But just look at that. You know, those two things have to die. Wouldn't that be astounding? Wouldn't it be astounding for this to happen for her to croak on the twin day of JFK's death? You know, and this whole thing with the Marilyn Monroe thing going on. You know, I'm gonna leave it there. That's actually a really good place to finish the video. Yeah, I know there's some better number jumps that I've missed out there. I didn't even talk about that 150. Did I even come across it? Didn't I have a 150-day jump? It was probably 9/11. Put it in. Why isn't that? Oh, hang on a minute. Dumbass. Right. There it is. That's the 150. I can't remember what it was. There it goes. 9/11 through to the 8th. So again. Oh dear. I'm leaving it there. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens, isn't it, the next few days. Definitely going to buy me an extra couple of cans of baked beans though if she croaks on the 11th, on the 8th, and then because I think we're going to see something mental, pretty mental. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, this is just as good of a date as I've looked at in the past with other dates, you know. So why not? All right, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.